ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 6 of the Michael Pell podcast. It's good to be back in the chair, and it is even better to be back in the chair next to a lady. Jessica Reynolds, Managing Director of Urban Planners Queensland, joins us on the podcast. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you. I'm just very, a lady.
A lady?
Not even a woman.
A woman?
Lady.
A female?
A female.
We're allowed to say all those things these days. We haven't got too politically correct that we can't say those things.
You can say it today, okay?
Okay, today.
But I am glad that
With
you
your permission.
are, bringing some female
Yes.
presence onto this podcast. It has been very masculine
It
to
has,
date.
it has. And viewers, thanks for sticking with it. But you knew the day would come, and no better lady or woman to start with than you, Jessica Reynolds. A very interesting story which we're going to delve into today. You had me, just to give some background, on your podcast a month or two ago, and we were sort of more talking property, etc. The exciting thing now is it's going to be a mirror. I'm going to be interrogating, as you said off air, you. We're going to talk about your story that has led you to become, obviously, CEO, Managing Director of your own business, Urban Planners Queensland. You've got your own podcast, but take us back. One thing I do know is that you're not a Queensland girl. You're actually a New South Wales girl, Jess.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say that with like a negative tone or anything. It was it was a fact.
It's just a fact. It's a statement. So where were you born? And let's start from the start, shall we?
I'm a Western Sydney suburbs, Penrith, in fact. So
Penrith?
Nepean Hospital.
Penrith girl.
Yeah, I've come across quite a few people who are Nepean-born babies.
Are you a Penrith Panther?
I'm not. No. My family, we've always been Brisbane Broncos, which is actually quite weird.
Okay.
So there was a bit of a long transition to moving to Queensland, but we're always Queenslanders at heart.
Okay, so you're really an adopted Queenslander. But so how many years did we spend in New South Wales, in Penrith?
In New South Wales. So I was born in Penrith. My family's all from that part of Sydney. But they're actually, my immediate family are very transient. They like to move around. So then we moved to the mid-north coast of New South Wales.
With
so
the caravans trying to transient, or
No,
more just
no.
like a permanent move kind of transient?
Homes. We just, would move every 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
So most of my childhood and teenage years were on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, so all around that Port Macquarie.
So you basically made your way up.
Yeah, so they just moved their way up slowly, just getting a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
So most of my schooling was in Taree, so that's a sort of country town between Newcastle and Port Macquarie.
Oh, yes.
Mid-north coast, lovely dairy farming.
Yep.
Beautiful place to grow up. Had the state forest right behind us.
What was mum and dad
horses.
doing for a crust with that flexibility to be able to move around so much?
So dad started a geotechnical drilling company.
Right.
So going out on site, and then eventually that's what I think led to a lot of the moves.
Yes.
And then eventually he could see that there was a bit of a ability to move up to Queensland and do more mining investigation.
Right.
And so that was a good move for him.
Yeah.
And so that's why we ended up moving from Taree up to the Sunshine Coast.
Very good. And then was it more schooling at the Sunshine Coast, or was it after school?
It was sort of my last year and a bit on the Sunshine Coast. Changed a few schools. Did go to Caloundra High for a bit. But
And where was Leavers Week? Let's get to the important stuff.
Leavers Week. I didn't actually do it because it's a bit of a weird one where I was young for New South Wales. So I graduated at 17, whereas a lot of my New South Wales friends graduated at 18. And because I'd left, gone to 2 different schools in my last year of schooling sort of thing.
Right.
I didn't really feel that close to people, and like things get booked at the beginning.
Yeah, of
and
course.
To be honest, I've always just been one of those people who was like, I'd rather just get in and work.
Yeah. I've never witnessed the Gold Coast Leavers Week. I've obviously moved up to Brisbane in, nearly a year ago, and about to move to the Gold Coast, just bought a property down here.
Nice.
It's a thing. It's a real thing, the Leavers Week on the Gold Coast, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. How was it last year?
It's full on. Harry would know, the cameraman. It's full on.
I've heard
Steer clear of Service Paradise for that week. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Depending
I'll hang out in Broadbeach instead. So Jess, take us from there. You're now running your own business, and we'll talk about the planning side of it and what led you to become a town planner, which is a really interesting thing in itself. And even myself, being in real estate for so many years, probably don't even know half the things or even a quarter of the things that you would be doing. But what led you from effectively finishing your schooling on the Sunshine Coast to having your own town planning business based in Brisbane?
Yeah, so I graduated from high school, obviously. And then I enrolled to do IT. So I
Yep.
was going to do IT at uni, move to Brisbane, do that. But I just wasn't 100% sure yet. You know, I'd obviously gone through a few moves personally
Yes.
in life. And so I just did a TAFE degree and I ended up working for builders and then architects. And the entire time during that year, everyone was always complaining about the private town planners, telling them what to do, what they can and can't do. And I was like, I think I found my calling.
Wow.
So that was pretty much when I then went, yep, that sounds cool. I'm going to enroll. It's a 4-year degree. And then that's when I moved to Brisbane and started up.
Great. Do you think town planners is there a stigma attached to town planners?
Definitely. It's such a variance. I actually...
Like there's a stigma for accountants, right or wrong,
anything.
but there is.
Real estate agents.
Well, there
like,
is.
You
Yeah,
know,
no, it's true.
I'm sure you get it.
Yeah.
You know, you always feel that little bit of anxiety when someone goes, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm a town planner. And then you either get, oh, yeah, my uncle does that. Or I knew someone...
Yeah,
once did that.
Who planned a town before.
Oh, I've played SimCity.
Yeah.
Why is there so much congestion on the roads?
Yeah.
And you're like, none of those are me.
Yeah. Again, it's a pigeonhole box.
Yeah.
But so you did the town planning degree and straight into your own business, or did you work for others?
No, so I worked for others. So during my degree, because I had the admin background working for builders and architects, I managed to secure a role at just a boutique planning firm in Brisbane.
Yep.
And so I just did student admin type things.
Yep.
But I was always pushing, being like, can you give me more, give me more?
And learning.
Yeah. And then someone from that company started their own business. So then I was helping them just as a student, just setting up templates and things like that. So I got a bit of exposure before I even graduated. Because that's over a 4-year period.
Yes.
And then when I finished, I ended up working as an internal town planner at a architecture firm.
Yep.
So that was great because you actually were sitting next to the architects who were designing.
Yes.
And you just had so much more input than, I guess, you know, it's something that I've brought into my business now, but there's sometimes that separation where you've got a business over here doing one thing and you're doing another thing.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience. And I did that for 2 years, but eventually I just realized I wanted a bit more of a lifestyle.
Yep.
I felt like I was getting fat.
Yep.
My eyes were going. They're still going.
Don't look fat, Jess. But
not now.
No.
That's because I quit and I started my own business. And I never, that year after I quit, I just, you know.
You became an outside cat.
Yeah, I loved being outside. I just would go for walks. Obviously, as most people know, starting a business is not easy.
No.
So there was a lot of downtime. There's only so much you can do in a day. There's only so much you can stress yourself out approaching people, trying to get work. The rest of it, you just need to, you know, go for a walk and
flow, not force.
Sun.
That's true.
Yeah. So
you turned from an inside cat working for someone else to an outside cat running your own business. And it is a bit like that. I quite like that analogy. I mean, you think of the inside cat getting their milk and whiskers given to them on a plate, with all due respect to inside cats, but then you go outside cat, you don't know where your next feed's coming from. You've got to hunt for that next feed.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that being a business owner, isn't it?
Definitely. It definitely is like
How was the first few years of being a business owner? I mean, it's a roller coaster. Tell us about your roller coaster ride.
I think mine was a bit interesting because, again, even though my father had a business, I don't come from a family who helped me in business or started financially, nothing. I literally was out on my own. I didn't have any friends because I started my business when I was 25.
Wow.
So
how old has the business been running for?
6 years.
Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
do the math.
I've done the maths. It was your birthday last week. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
But yeah, so the first 2 years of my business, I kind of describe it as working as a consultant. So thankfully, a lot of people who had worked with me within the architecture firm had actually started their own architecture firms. And so they were feeding me a bit of work. And it was enough work to work part-time. And I moved to Cairns for a bit, learned to scuba dive. I moved out Bayside in Brisbane, learnt to sail. And I just got to do all these really cool things.
You weren't going out to retire out to Bayside in Brisbane, were you?
Look, I'm back. I'm out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spent those first 2 years almost as like an extended gap year. I didn't do the schoolies. I didn't do a gap year. I worked my gap year. So to me, it was really great. I got those 2 years to really experience things, travel a bit, went to Brazil, Argentina.
Wow.
Probably did a few other things like Hawaii.
Yeah. On the way back? On the way there?
No, just different trips.
Yeah.
Still running a business and only part-time, didn't have that much money.
Yeah,
so
of course.
sort of just, going as I could.
Yeah.
But it was great. And then at the end of those 2 years, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I had a vision when I first started this business it's time to get in and do the work.
Yes.
And then that's when the real work started.
A couple of years in.
And I became a bit more of an inside cat.
Yes, there you go. Still an outside cat, but you're inside.
Yeah, there's a bit more. It's sort of like there's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sort of like you go too far one way where you're outside too much,
yes.
starving. And then you need to get back inside and get a bit of that, whiskers.
Yeah, outside's dangerous. You've got the dogs and all the predators out there. So sometimes you do have to come inside. But in terms of running your own business, I mean, so you're a town planner. So people, tell us really how you make your money and what you do, what value you bring for clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a private town planner, we're basically, I like to use the analogy of you go to an accountant to go to the ATO, you go to a lawyer to go to the court, or you go to a private town planner to go to council. So
sometimes you ring the ATO direct, it gets really scary, but anyway.
Yeah, and that's the same. Like I've had a lot of, PhD, very, very intelligent clients who go, I'm just going to do this myself.
Yes.
And then they go and then they come back going, please deal with this. We can't deal with it. So the people that we help can be property developers, property owners,
mums
architects, mums and dads, a lot of consultants within the industry, so project managers,
builders,
buyers agents, builders, all sorts of people and their clients. And what they need to do is they need approval from council to do particular things. So it might be something as small as a house renovation on a character home. It might be
because you need the Shire approval for that.
Yes.
And that's where you come in.
Yes. So town planning is more about the use, the density, the type of use and the impacts it's going to have. It's different to a building approval, which is more about making sure your house isn't going to burn or fall down.
Yes,
so
understand.
we deal with the, is it the SimCity type stuff?
Here's the block of land I'm thinking of buying.
Yep.
How many houses or how many blocks can I get out of that block of land?
100%. Yeah, so we work on that scale too. So everything from house renovations up to, I've got this big block of land and I want to put 20 new houses on it, split it up and sell them off. And we deal with that. We basically do the legislation and advocacy for council. So council, they have their processes, they have the legislation. We understand that. We've been studying it for years. And then on top of that, there's political advocacy and being understand the nuances of each of those councils and assessment managers and just how the whole process works.
Of course. So often people might come to you with a property that's tied up under due diligence period and really it's based off your yes or no as to whether they would buy that property or not.
Absolutely. It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure.
When they ask for it in 5 minutes and for free.
And I suppose, true. I suppose, sometimes... you say you need 900 square metres, for example, to be able to subdivide. Sometimes the block might be 870 square metres, so it doesn't actually tick the box on paper, but you might be able to find a way to still make it work and get it through.
Yeah,
it can happen,
context.
Can't it?
So that's also the benefit of using a private town planner. Obviously, we can't overrule the council, the government in what they're saying, but... As an example, say we had a project in Bulimba, which is inner city Brisbane. We had an ongoing client there. He had a site that didn't meet the site requirements to do a subdivision. He was just a little bit less. But when you looked at it from a town planning perspective, you could see that it actually would be appropriate for that locality because just zonings and things like that don't take in the nuances of each block or site context. So what we did was we went, we fully support you on this, like from a town planning standpoint, strategically, makes 100% sense. But we know that council is going to refuse it because it doesn't tick a box. And so what we did was we basically said, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go to court. These are your fees. He did that, got the approval.
Got it through.
And now it was very much worth it. So that's where we come in and tell you, these are your options. These are your percentage chances. And these are going to be your costs. Now you, as the project manager, have an educated decision to make. Yeah,
it's like you said, Jess, you're doing it all day, every day. It's a bit like someone going direct to the bank trying to get their loan through or going to a broker who knows 30 banks. You know the shires, the councils, which they're all a little bit different, aren't they?
Yeah, all of
them.
Like
Brisbane, LGA.
All different cultures and
so you know the nuances, you know how to get things through. So going back to sort of the business owner and being a lady business owner, do you feel it's a male-dominated industry, the town planning industry? Is it changing and was it male-dominated, do you think?
I think my perspective changes as my confidence as a business owner grows as well. I think the town planning industry itself is not male-dominated, but as far as decision-making and business owners, yes. So there's a lot of female town planners working for larger companies. There's a lot of employees. that are town planners, and they're great. They're so great. But as far as other business owners, it's very limited. Like I can think of 2 or 3 out of 100.
I can't think of any other town planners.
Good. Don't.
Owners. I mean, that's great. That's why you're on the podcast, episode 6. But
I'm competitive.
Yeah, but do you think that's going to change, or are we stuck with male-dominated owners of town planning businesses?
I think there's always going to be in business. Business isn't easy.
No.
And I think it depends on your priorities in life. And I think I've got a lot of great female business owner friends who have had children and all sorts of things and still manage to keep their businesses together. Others I know as friends would never even imagine starting a business. Their focus is their family.
Yeah.
And
do you think you can do both? I mean,
100%.
Are we allowed to ask you? Is that on your radar? No. What's the next 10 years look like for you, Jess?
Oh, I would love to have a family.
Yeah.
But
we are allowed to ask that. Is recording?
It's not you're not employing me. It's
no,
fine.
No,
there's no legislation around this.
This is not a job interview. It's a podcast. Hang on.
No, I would love to have a family and things like that. But,
you can do it if you've got the business set up to a point.
Yeah.
You can definitely do it.
You can do anything. I've known people who have started businesses knowing that they're pregnant.
Right.
You can do anything you want to. Yeah, it might be a little bit harder, but it just depends on your own personal drive.
Put the right people in place, because again, not everyone wants to be a business owner. So you put the right employee in place to help you run the business, or employees. You can have your 6 or 12 months off if you need to.
Yeah. Some people don't want that. I can't imagine me wanting that much time off.
Yeah.
Like I went on holidays last week and it was my first, week holiday outside of Christmas in about 4 years, I think.
You were going to go to WA, but because it's hard to get in and out of WA, West Australia, you lost a tourist here. She had big bucks to spend.
I did.
She spent big bucks in the Northern Territory instead of WA. So Mark McGowan, take heed.
Yeah, no, I was quite disappointed about that. And probably won't be booking a trip there anytime soon.
You had the Ningaloo all set, all of that.
I was so excited. But now I'm kind of got that full anxiety of getting on the plane and there being some sort of community transmission, and then you have to do 14 days there. Like, put me in a hotel room for 14 days.
Yes, no.
I will burn it down.
Wouldn't be getting much planning done.
Too bad if I have to do it now.
What was the trip to Northern Territory like? Give us a summary.
It was amazing. Just a couple of days in Darwin and then a few more days in Kakadu. So I just I've been to Darwin a few times and I've done all Litchfield.
Drove out?
Like that. So just drove out to Kakadu. Did the sunset cruise, see all the crocs. We saw wedge-tailed eagles on the road right in front of us. Giant water buffaloes. Like we saw all the animals.
How good's
we
that?
were so lucky.
Full Crocodile Dundee experience.
Yeah, and then we did the scenic flight.
That's as good as the WA one you were going to go on. It's just a bit different.
Yeah. It's it was still, one of those things that are on a lot of people's bucket lists.
Yeah.
I definitely don't complain. It was so nice to just get out of the city or suburban environment and just have see more connection between country and people. See you in the NT.
No, it's good up there. It's really good.
It was a good campaign.
So, Jess, where to for the business? The next 5 years for Urban Planners Queensland. Where are we taking it? Is the team staying as the same size as it is? Are you expanding?
We'll grow a little bit.
Are you getting busier? How are you finding the market?
Yeah, I'm finding now, obviously the market is crazy. Everybody and anyone wants to be in it. It's sort of like...
And everyone wants to be a property developer?
Everybody wants to be a property developer. I've spent the last few years building up good relationships with a lot of businesses such as builders and architects. So I really focus on trying to make sure that them and their clients, so that their businesses can grow serviced.
Yes.
And then, we do deal with a few property developers, but as you say, everybody and anyone's becoming a property developer. So my core business is not really focused on that sort of service.
You want to be looking after the people that you know are going to be with you in 2, 4, 6 years.
Oh, 100%.
Ongoing.
Yeah. And it's just genuinely I enjoy working with them and they appreciate the service we provide. There's nothing worse than, working with Joe and John and
they don't,
Joanne,
and they want a discount.
There's from a business perspective, we can bring on more of those people as I'm less involved.
Yes.
Because the business is my baby.
Of course.
So you don't want to be dealing with people who don't respect your baby.
Of course. No, that's absolutely. And even when you do have babies, even more important. Jess, do you do stuff everywhere, all through Queensland? Is that right?
So all through Queensland, we've got projects going on at the moment in Cooktown, Gladstone,
really?
Ipswich, out in the Scenic Rim. We've got,
all
Bayside. Yeah. A bit of everywhere. Yes, it gets a little bit chaotic working between the different councils, but because we've been working with councils for so long, we kind of understand the nuances. And
I think the big thing that you could do as well for people, whether you're a developer or mum and dad, is time. So time is money, and you could save them a lot of time potentially. Because they try and do it themselves. They can stuff around for months, I'd gather, whereas you might have an answer back in 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah,
basically. So with mums and dads or people wanting to do property development, I do encourage them to educate themselves on things. That way you understand what your planner's talking about. But I definitely don't recommend the things that I see people doing are taking advice from a professional planner and then getting 10 other recommendations from either council or from other planners, and then you just overwhelm yourself because there is going to be variance between consultants.
Opinions.
It's probably the same in your industry.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of same but different. And so I just see people going totally overwhelmed and nobody wants to work with you.
We did a development in WA and 2 town planners, this is about 5 years ago, said, no, you can't split the block. Forget it.
Yep.
You can't split it. I got recommended to a really good another guy who's obviously a really good town planner. He said, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
And he got it through. And again, I talk about finance a lot because people are saying, oh, we're not going to get your finance through, and people accept that decision. But they try another option and you can get it through. It's the same with town planning, isn't it?
Yep.
Like a clever town planner might know how to present it to the council or to the shire and put it in context, like you say, to get a development through. It's a pretty big difference, isn't it?
Yeah. So the way that I've always liked to look at things is going, if it was my project, would I be trying to go for this? And can I see that there is benefit? And if I personally wouldn't do it, then that's going to be my recommendation.
Of course.
But if I personally am like, oh, I can see that this is happening here and that's happening here, and I can see the legislation, you can't tick that box, but I think we can go down this path, and I think through this way. That's how I've always approached planning. Yeah,
beautiful. Women in town planning, I love it. Jess, best advice you could give to anyone thinking of starting their own business?
I think if you're wanting to start your own business, just start making sure you're building your network up early on. Before you even go out and start the business, start talking to people, getting to know people, building up your contact list, because that's what's going to make you money.
Your network is your net worth, I heard one day.
100%. Without
it's
my
true
network,
though, isn't
I would have nothing.
Yeah.
I'd be relying on people to just come in off the street from advertising. But once people know who you are and they know you're good at what you do, like my business is just growing and growing and growing just through word of mouth now.
You could be an employee listening to this and you might have dreams of having your own business in 2, 3 or 5 years. Like you say, get on the platform, start your LinkedIn account.
Yeah.
What do you want to be known for? And you might not be starting it for 5 years' time, but you're building up that network ready to go so that when you do, it's not all a cold, standing start, is it?
Yeah, and this is what I talk to my employees about all the time, because I don't want them to stagnate in where they are. I do want them to grow. I'd love them to grow within the business, but
you understand if they do want to leave.
They need to have their LinkedIn going. They need to be going out and networking and things like that. You want to have options. Yeah, you
definitely do. Jess, I had another question. My mind just wandered off.
Oh, you're doing a Jess.
What's some big mistakes that you've made in running your own business that you've learnt from, and that you could help other people? I mean, we're all going to make mistakes, obviously, and that's a part of learning and growing. But is there anything that springs to mind that you look back and go, "Wow, at the time I thought, oh, what a stuff up," but in hindsight, it was actually a benefit that it happened?
Yeah. Oh, there's been so many. I think. My biggest stuff-ups have always been when I haven't followed my instincts.
Yes.
So there's always been this thing in my stomach going, don't take on this client, or have you done this? And then your brain goes, no. And then that's when it happens. That's when you get...
Follow your gut.
Yeah, that's when there's problems. And I think if you have those feelings, you need to really start getting in tune with those and matching your head up to your instincts.
Your intuition.
They know, it knows before you do.
Go with your gut. Mm-hmm. I think the other thing as well, as obviously I'm a business owner, so are you, often it's like the old, we've got to be chasing the work. I think if you can get your business to a point where you're choosing the right client for yourself, so you actually reverse it. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing if they're a good enough qualified client that you'd allow yourself to work with, right?
Yes, definitely. It's
versus chasing.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's been so good in the last couple of years to be able to, take on a client and then realize, hey, sorry, we're going to give you your money back. You're just not the right fit for us.
Yeah,
we're not going to enjoy this. And
could you imagine what the client feels like? Whoa. I'm ready to give you my money and you don't want us. It's quite a powerful position to be in, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
It's liberating.
It's liberating. Like you always feel a bit like, oh, I'm sorry, and we all like money, but
of course, not that much.
The pain. Once you've been through those experiences where you've taken on the wrong clients, it's not that you can't help them. It's just that they work in a different way to you. It's
also, Jess, I suppose, the opportunity cost, to quote an economic term. You take the wrong client on, and the headaches with that wrong client. Mm-hmm. How many other good clients does that cost you? Mm-hmm. And that probably costs you more than the revenue you're getting 100%. From that one client.
Yeah, and I think you can only really, you can tell new business owners this, but I think it's only through experience that you really understand how much time and stress and pressure it puts on you.
Yes.
And just being able to say, no, sorry, please find someone else.
Yeah.
And then you can focus on the people who are going to be your future.
Yeah. And then they tell their people. And it's more flow, not force.
Yeah.
But look, hats off to you, Jess. You're doing a great job. You've done a great job. You're a young, go-getting, entrepreneurial lady business owner, and let's hope there's a lot more coming through the ranks, because as you say, there's not many of you in the town planning game.
No. If there's any female town planners that have got some experience and want to come work with us and do what I do, I'm
learn from
happy
the best.
To bring you under our wing.
There you go. Well, Jess, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. Episode 6. It was a good one. Thanks everyone. Back with another podcast shortly.